related to this work that we're doing together. Oh, did I just go off video? That's weird.
You also went off audio.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's not the
Yeah,
way.
it was dead silent when I came on.
Oh, okay. How is the sound now? Okay-ish?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
fine. You look fine too.
Okay. Yeah, well, my hair's messy. We've been in the countryside to a monster truck event this weekend, so it's all very exciting and very cultural, right?
I'm trying to imagine what one of those in England might look like.
Exactly what you might imagine. Yeah. Tom, send me a link then, or anything of your writing. I'd like to do a really brief live demo.
Sure.
We have two new people today. Mohit, who is here, he was in early, so I guess he's gone for coffee like I did. Oh,
Uh, yeah, I'm still here. Hi, Fro. Hi, Tom.
hello. Yeah, your mute's
Hello.
just went off, so cheers. Where are you located? I forgot.
I'm currently in Mumbai.
Okay, so it's late.
Yeah, it's nine in the night.
Okay, right. So medium late.
Yeah,
Okay, we have had some people from Australia, and that's very late, so yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to give some
So I
information.
think this is appropriate to May the 4th be with you.
Today is Star Wars Day.
Thank you.
Oh, and Mohit, we'll do introductions in a second, but at the bottom there, the very dark person who looks like he's an evil Star Wars man is on the other side of the planet. Peter, you want to say where you are because it's so cool?
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm still in Hawaii. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. All right, headset's working today. Anyways, it's way early morning here, so I gotta
Yes.
kind of be a little quiet. The last day here for a
Oh,
while.
really?
So.
Okay.
All right.
How
Oh,
was the
good. I'll give
stay?
you a picture.
Was it as nice as it seems?
Of course. I mean, it's rainy and it's dealing with family issues, but it's friggin' Hawaii.
Very cool.
Enjoy things while you got it. That's the key.
Yeah, nothing could be more apt than that. Yeah, 100%. Whatever that means in your context right now, Peter, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy watching the things being done here. So this is part of my enjoyment. Well, I get up early in the morning to do this.
You are an extremely weird man, and I'm eternally grateful for your weirdness. We also have Timur, who is another part of the world. So as I said, we'll do introductions in a second. I'm just going to have to open a window. We just come back from this Monster Jam thing. Yes, we have American culture here too. Am I getting another link from you, Tom?
I just sent it to you.
I got one. I'd like two, please.
Yeah. Oh, you want two?
Yes,
sure.
please.
Nope. No
So
worries.
the
I'll send you.
topic today that we'll delve into momentarily is ostensibly about document formats, but this is not a hardcore technical format kind of a place. So we take things as inspiration to go wherever our discussions take us. After we do introductions, I'm just going to see if anyone else joins us. I have a little bit of a live demo of the system, which is kind of the reality we're arguing for and against, which is Author for Mac and Author for the headset. Timur, you've used Author back in the day a bit, right? But unfortunately, you're not too Mac-ish, is that right?
Yes, that's true. Hello. Nice to see you, yes.
Yeah. Oh, have you got your camera or not, Timur? There he is. Last time I saw him in real life was 2014, wasn't it?
Maybe next year, 2015, I guess, in the United States, in San Francisco.
Yes, that was probably the most recent. That's good.
10 years ago, even more.
Terrible.
Yep, that's true.
All right. Well, let's start with introductions. I'm going to ask Peter to start. Hello, Peter.
Hello. I'm other Peter isn't here. Okay, that was gonna check with me. Peter Demetrius. I'm retired IBMer playing in this technology for years. Trying to get trying to figure out what we can do that can make this work for headset users, and 3D VR is so mind changing. So changes the way you interact with systems. Yeah, it's still kind of a niche thing because of cost and expense and UX issues. I'm really interested in seeing how we can make a gradual, progressive application framework way of displaying knowledge where you can step into it with your headset, but then also view it on my phone here when I don't have a headset and everything. And doing that through Federated Wiki and other ways of structuring content in ways that maybe you can reformat it more easily across the different devices that we're going to have. And I love the multimedia stuff that Frode has been doing that is just whacking me on the side of the head in nice ways.
Wonderful introduction. Any further comments from, oh, the second Peter is here too, the original Peter. Peter, do you mind introducing yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Peter Wasilko. I'm an attorney, programmer, and independent scholar.
Oh, come on, dude. You have more than that. You're also based in New York. You went to the
Yep.
greatest university that you and I have
Syracuse
ever gone
University, a
to.
fellow alum with Frode.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Okay, fine. So we have you. Tom, please.
I went to the greatest university, the University of Texas at Austin.
Texas has a university? That is so cool.
Hook 'em horns. Tom Hames. I am a faculty member at a public college as well as a developer of the Knowledge Navigator. And I kind of come at this from the opposite end that most of the other guys are coming at it because I'm interested in mapping ideas and how we can use AI to change how we synthesize and view large chunks of information and data. And so I'm doing what Frode is doing, except on a flat plane. And then I'll give it to Frode and he'll fix it and make it 3D.
We're going to do a little bit of that now, actually. I'm going to use Tom's writing as a really brief demo to kick off some discussion. Right, so that's the old crew. And Timur, since you're second newest in a way, please go ahead and introduce yourself. I'm not sure.
Hello, yes, but I just heard a few explosions just outside the window, so it may be the internet cut off soon, so I could be cut off. Anyway, I'm a psychologist. I have a PhD in psychophysiology 20 years ago, some more. So I'm interested in working in human-computer interactions for last, I don't know, 30 years in different complexions, I would call it. So last few years, I'm mostly working with AI and psychology nexus. So everything I'm interested in is how does psyche evolves mostly and evolutes in this new AI environment. Yes, and we know each other for more than 10 years. I think so, yes. And lots of interesting work we have done together. And I hope that will continue after all this, whatever it's called, is over us. Okay.
Timur is calling from Moscow.
Yeah, Moscow, Russia, the center of Mordor.
My wife and I were there and around 2014, and it was just bizarre because a lot of the political stuff had started happening, but the people on the street quite literally were just so warm and welcoming, including, I don't know if I told you, Timur, we were by the Kremlin and we were going somewhere we shouldn't. And this guy came up with, obviously, Kalashnikov. And so friendly the way he told us we couldn't be there. So to us, it was just like a little tiny Hollywood movie of how humans one-on-one are very different from political systems, as we all very much know. So the other thing I want to say about Timur is when we met in Croatia originally, we were at one of these Save the World, Doug Engelbart originated meetings where very left-wing, very liberal, nothing got done, right? If I may, with all due respect to all sides, right-wing tend to find a problem, attack it, work on it. Left-wing tends to find a problem, no, that's not the real problem, let's discuss the problem. And I'm on the left, so it's very, very frustrating. But sitting there over dinner with Timur, we invented stuff I'm still trying to implement, just for fun. We invented an iPad app where you read and it checks what you're doing. Are you in a quiet room or a loud room? Can you answer questions? Yeah, but you're only going to get the quiz once you've read the page. So the quiz for the page comes up after a certain period of time. All of these things we discussed and we're now slowly trying to make. So I'm extremely happy that Timur is here today. I did a presentation with him a few months ago at another event. So Timur, very happy you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
yeah,
real quick, Frode, right wing only has one goal, it's power. And that's easy to unify around. Left wing wants its goal is equity. Well, the problem with equity is that you have a lot of voices. And so it makes it harder to come to consensus if you practice true equity. Whereas on the right wing, the loudest voice wins.
That's a very interesting perspective. And sorry, I've been reading this one. If you're not familiar,
I am familiar.
super tiny. I was told when I was in a bookshop this weekend when one of my former students, we went in and she bought me this book.
Oh, yes, that's one of my Bibles.
Yeah, the Black Swan guy. It's brilliant. I told Vint Cerf, so he bought one too. And the lady behind the counter, I think she thought I was American because of my accent. She made me buy this. Right. So there are many aspects to this. Yes. So, right. Mohit, thank you for joining us so late at night. I know you're not in space, but it's still dark where you are. So please, you're going to be presenting your work next Monday. So please tell the group a little bit about who you are.
Hi, I'm Mohit. I'm joining from Mumbai, India. I am an independent researcher working at the intersection of complex systems, medium design, and distributed cognition. So I got interested in this like a decade ago while I was at the university. And because I was doing computer science, but I was more interested in the questions of how we make sense of the world and the new understandings emerging from complex systems. So the work that was being done at Santa Fe Institute, New Mexico, that was really interesting to me, and also the work of Doug Engelbart. So I dropped out of university and pursued this on my own. Studying neuroscience, studying a bit of architecture also, how they understand spatial intelligence, how we experience things. Neuroscience, again, the work of Margaret Livingstone, wherein she was understanding our perception not as image transmission, but as information processing. So with my work, I'm interested in building tools that augment how we interact with things. So we across the day, every day, we are interacting with a lot of things, a lot of information. But during those encounters, we are not able to bring a whole lot of our past resources. So, we may be looking at a book at a bookshop or a library, and there may be a lot of relevant things that we could be using, but we are not able to use. So because for one thing, we may be rely on our sporadic memories. What at that point, if only the the little information that we're able to assemble, and then that sort of interactivity those retrieved information is able to have between each other. So those two things, really have not been augmented all that much. Although I studied how our cognition changed from orality to literacy. So the work of oral scholars, and how in literary cultures, right from printing press to our the design of what I'm forgetting the name of that tool. So that curve. I have written 2, 3 papers basically explaining the context of these ideas for myself. And yeah, that's about it. I think, I may have gone a little off track. Sorry for that.
Well, that's the whole point you're here. You're very, very passionate about it. It would be very weird if you'd give a 5-second introduction of who you are and your work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to more of that next week. So yeah, what we're going to do now, I'm going to do a quick demo on the computer, put on the headset, talk through a little bit, and then we will talk about all kinds of fun things. Most of you, of course, know most of this. So what I've done, I've just made this 3,398 word essay based on plagiarizing Tom Hames. So a question of why we don't work in headsets beyond cost, availability, and comfort has come up in this group a few times. One aspect for sure, I would say, is that if we don't have our own stuff, what's the point? Secondly, what are the relatively unique interactions? So my current postulate to you guys is that if we can untangle information spatially, maybe we at the same time untangle our thoughts. So I cheat a little bit. I go down here to Ask AI, go to Define Concepts. So now I'm pretending I'm Mr. Tom Hames. It goes through the document, sees any concepts that the author, I'm pretending I'm you, Tom, that I have written, and it tries to define it with a category and date if available. Now we're using the internet and it's ChatGPT running this. The user does have other options, but this is the one that's been trained on the most. Okay, here we go. So here's the first. Surprise, surprise, it's Doug Engelbart. So this is taken from what's in the text. It's realized it's a person, which is nice, and it's put in his birthday, which is super nice. Birthday is not generally found in the text, but that's one of the things we've allowed the AI, if they know, to put in. So we can do save and next and go through all of these, or we can, well, actually, let me just show you how it works. The definition of the word Macintosh includes Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is bold because there is another definition of Steve Jobs. That's what bold means. So here you can see under graphical user interface, it refers to Macintosh. That's the only semantic linking of concepts in this system. So now I'm clicking Save All. Then we go at the bottom here, click on Map, and it is quite a mess. And we have even a quote in here. So the bold italic means organization. The line on either side indicates an event. Things that are italic are supposed to look like a signature on people. So I close that, and now I'm going to go in the headset. Any questions so far? No questions. Oh, boring. Okay. Let me just share my view.
We're just waiting with bated breath and suspense.
Good. So it doesn't want to share to the laptop quite yet. That's not cool. Apple's very good with connections, but not always. Yeah, if you can't see this, that's not very useful. Let me just check here. On the same network. Sorry, guys, this is not useful.
I like seeing it in the 2D version of that because even seeing other things in the VR headset makes that 2D graph. I think it's a good way to explode what would be a normal 2D graph, and you spin it around or do something with it in a 3GS or something like that. When you step into your headset and you give us a taste, at least in this little, whenever you get the sharing working,
Yeah,
how
I mean,
different that is, because
yeah,
it really is something very different when I've experienced myself.
yeah. No, thank you for highlighting that. I'm just waiting for this thing to see if it'll behave itself.
Yeah,
So
I
the
know. I'm
notion
kind of
is,
vamping for you.
if you select everything, it becomes a bit messy, right? So here, it only shows lines when you select. So here's a very obvious one, Steve Jobs. And if you mouse over, it'll show you why those lines are here. And I'm experimenting with the prompt. I'll show you the prompt actually. So this is a prompt the user can edit to choose how to weight it and everything. Of what kind of thing should be there. Should it have quotes? Should it not have quotes? All of that stuff. Bluetooth off and on then. Okay, that's very odd. That actually fixed it. Right, so you can still see, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So now you can see from inside the world, I hope. So now we're in the same library office, open author, and look at this. The system strikes back is there. Perfect title for today, as discussed. So here, the first thing we have is this can be used with a Bluetooth keyboard. So I can now sit and work and write normally, which is a horrible abuse of space, but there we go. So we go to map, and these are the concepts as we just saw them. And I can keep the document within sight, but I'm putting it over there now. One of the things some of you may not have seen is the toolbar now is separate. It's no longer part of the, in fact, it might be a little annoying for you guys to. Okay, I just moved everything this way so you don't have to look at the Mac computer screen. Right, so this is flat, as you saw. And you can open things by double tapping and close them, move them anywhere you want. And when you select things, let's do Macintosh. Oh, we're not, okay, let me go to my settings. We have a lot of experimental settings here. So now you get the lines. So if you get a chance to use this, please go into the settings. We have all these node settings as well, because it's still research. So
Rode, can that be used on the AV Pro emulator on a regular Mac? Or does it only work in the actual headset?
Well, it'll work on the emulator in Xcode, for sure. Let me just show you this. So now I do, because this toolbar is really, really important, but we want to have gestures. So now, for instance, we're going to select any persons. And this is where, so this was made with AI, these nodes. So they're not exactly perfect. But now, if they have a person, they are selected. So I can do align left, boom, and then layout, distribute by depth. Actually, we're going to do that by time, by depth, like this, right? So now we have Arthur C. Clarke here, Ted Nelson, all the people like this. And the cool thing is, if we now do focus, anything that's not connected goes away. See, I'm deselecting a few things, but they're connected. I move Doug over here. So if I now do the opposite, if any, yeah, see this one was connected to those, so they now appear. meaning that even if you had a ton of nodes, you can navigate through them in a focused mode. But if we now unfocus, D for deselect, and then I just do these randomly. If I now do this gesture, that's the same as focus. So pinch in, out. That goes in and out of focus. This is the kind of thing that I'm finding really important. You know, you have too much stuff and then you do that. And then you work on this. You select this, deselect that one, and so on. And also, it's really important that when you read these, they are very easy to read. And so that's really what I wanted to show you guys today. Actually, one more detail, layouts. Let me just do show all again. So we can do views, save view. Unfortunately, the dialog is here. We'll call this 1. Yeah, whatever, misspelled, doesn't matter. And then we move things about. And then we do layout, views, save view. Oh, actually, there's a logic issue here. I have to do edit views and then plus. Again, typo, who cares? But now we have 2 saved views, right? That we can easily go between. The problem is that going into layout, going here and toggling between them is not exactly the smoothest. So that's one of the interface I really think we should work on making some gesture. One more thing related to what Peter was saying. The space really does matter. Like if I'm here looking at the Doug Engelbart one, everything is behind me. And it means that, let's say, Arthur C. Clarke, I'm not interested in him right now, but I don't want him out of the space, so I move him behind me. There is a different sense, and as long as these can be in the room properly, and you noticed everything shifted when my headset shifted, we're working on how to make them stick. It means we could have more location-based memory systems active for whatever we want to build up. Put Bill Gates there, next to Ted and Alan. Does that make sense? Moving to read different things really does make a difference. I can't hear anything. Oh, yeah, just hang on, stop share. Right. So that's where we've got to today. A lot of the graphical stuff had to be written.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is the live view on the headset as jerky as what we're seeing, or is it a lot smoother because the translation is the problem?
I'm sorry. It is 100% solid in the room. So for me, because I naturally move my head, I guess I wasn't paying as much attention to presenting to you guys. I'm sorry.
It's 12 o'clock.
Oh, you know, I should think of this, I should think of that. But yeah, when I do a proper presentation, meaning recorded for a specific thing, then I have to be a bit more robot how I move. In the headset, the things in space, the nodes, they feel they're physically there. And this is the reason why the nodes, the connecting lines, I mean, if they are always there, it feels like little strings in the space. So it becomes really, really annoying. So to manage moving in this space, even though they're not there, they feel like they're there. So yeah.
Okay, so it's a lot smoother when you're looking at it in the headset.
It's
than
not
what we're seeing.
I would go further. It's not a lot smoother. It's completely solid, like the wall or the table.
Okay.
In fact, let me go back in for a second.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a frame issue in terms of, you know, when it refreshes as we're watching it on the
Maybe we have
Well, that might be also Zoom doing its funny thing as it,
Yeah,
sending
yeah. I mean,
video
there's
across
any
the
number of
internet.
there are any number of things that could be affecting it. I was just curious if what he was seeing was what we were seeing in that regard. That's all.
I'll try to, but okay, I'll try to give you a smoother experience because it's a very valid question. You can see it now, right? You can see me?
Yes, we see
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I now move this basic thing around, it really is where it is. I'm going to click map and the movement of this selected node to me is completely smooth. One second. Edgar, I'm actually in a meeting. What do you want? That's very exciting. Edgar, bye. Love you. Sorry. He's got a new balloon. It's very exciting. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so when I move my head, I mean, okay, so look at Xerox PARC and Motherall demos. See how they really stay close to the books? So yeah, it's completely rock solid.
How are they connected to the points in space? Does this video engine knows that this book corresponds to this kind of text or what?
The only way, sorry, so here's an example of in 2D. It just started with these things being in the same spot, so I'm just going to randomly move them out of it. It's a lot of stuff here. The only way they know about each other is that if one term is mentioned, hang on, I'll give you a complete, this is really a lot. Okay, let's forget about that. I'm going to try to, okay, so persona, right, here it is. If I open it, it says, hang on, deselect all. That's not very useful. It's pointing to that big mess. Right, okay, here you go. Vision Pro is in the definition of this, that is why it has a line to this, to the Apple Vision Pro by itself. That's it. And the main thing that I was mentioning earlier is having this mess and organizing it is supposed to help you organize your thoughts. Obviously now it's too much. But you can do things like, select person. You know, now we're beginning to have a bit of order. You see what I'm doing? So by being able to select categories, you can start to get some order on this. So these are all the institutions that I've been dealing with in this. Then we do distribute vertical maybe. If I move slowly, does it seem more stable?
A bit. I mean, it's still herky-jerky from, the Zoom video kind of thing.
That's very odd and annoying.
Yeah, but you're giving us a flavor, and I think you're doing a wonderful job of trying how to demo this stuff without other people having a headset is really tough.
Agreed.
Kudos on trying to figure out how to show people this and how different it is without, or at least we're not getting seasick over here or anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, I should probably have pre-recorded it because of Zoom, but so thank you for what you're saying. And now I can show you just one last time, the power of focus, because one thing we talk, as in the focus view, one thing we talk about in the community quite a bit is hiding and revealing, managing information, right? So I've selected Sword of Damocles. If I do this gesture again, everything that's not connected goes away. You have these two. And it's just really so powerful, because now, you see, I select something else, and then sometimes it reveals. And I've decided Neal Stephenson, Snow Crash is not interesting. Select them, they go away. Because this is your real world space. So it is very, very easy that it can become too much. So now I did some gesture that made it a bit confused. Right.
Thinking back, I think the question was the link. You had those links tied to it looked like it were tied to the book, but they're just tied in space in the VR. Vision Pro or software kind of said you're over here in this corner or whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I think that was an interesting thing. Be able to lead you to the physical book and pull it out, and I can pick it up and read it, and go off in a corner and take off the headset and read my book. I think that's just a stupid, simple aspect of the VR physicalness that I think might be very useful. I mean, it might sell it more than the more
as long as
abstract
we have
things we're trying
physical
to do.
books.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
My wife has already suggested that I might want to trim back on the books a bit.
Yeah,
we're in the same boat.
Yeah, but the question was
kids don't want
actually
all those
what
books.
happens if you move the book?
Oh yeah, currently they're not connected at all, but Peter Wasilko quite early on suggested digital integration with analog bookshelves, and it's definitely an important part of it. One thing that I think should be very important is, even though what has been developed so far is a virtual cube where everything faces one direction, you cannot twist it, because that's a very valid different approach, but you should be able to snap it off and paste it like a post-it note on a physical part of your environment. I think that would be very useful. When it comes to...
I mean that you do not place it on image recognition thing. I mean that if you have this book with this kind of picture on it, so wherever you see this kind of picture, does it still hold the correspondence to this kind of object in your VR, or is it still just glued to some geometrical space that doesn't care about what is actually behind it?
This is one of the reasons I'm very glad you are here. So Apple is very, very concerned with privacy. So what is in the room and what the software gets to see is very, very specific. Now, if I understand you correctly, one of the ways we could do it is you could connect to a real book, because the system would see the name of the book and know that we meant that book. That is not currently possible. And I think that would be very, very useful, because one thing you could do then is have your own notebooks that you have written with pen and paper yourself. As long as you have something unique on the cover, even if it's just a funny way of writing your name or a sticker of a cat, whatever it might be, whenever you're working, it could reference what's in there. So having a knowledge of the real space as space is cool. We're working on that. But I think, Timur, you're talking about having also semantic knowledge of the space, so that this particular item is where I'm putting a link to. If it moves, find it or remove the link, right?
Right, but it's not the fixed semantic objects. It's like if you have an object of some type, it could be any book or whatever. Then you have agents that can say that this is an object that is available to some kind of work, and then you have, environment around it.
Yes.
Does it see and understand what kind of object it has in the focus or not? As I understand, it doesn't. But the next question is then, what is the idea behind this? If you are going to move into this direction, is it interesting or not?
So the question of why put on a headset to work is a fundamental question to this community. We ask it a lot. And my current thing, to say it a third time, and I don't mean that as in you didn't listen, I mean that as in I'm having a problem how to contextualize it properly, is that currently all I'm seeing as a use case that I'm focusing on is untangle your concepts that'll help you untangle your thoughts. So when you move things over there, you move other things over here. And then maybe you notice you have a lot of stuff there, but there's something missing in between, the lacuna or whatever. It, might be the appropriate term. It becomes very, very interesting. This book here, the Anti-Fragile, there is a section here on, let me see if I've underlined it. Yeah, apoplectic. What cannot be explicitly said because we don't have the vocabulary for it, right? He has a great sentence. We know more than we think we do, a lot more than we can articulate. So the thinking is just you articulate what you can articulate, and then you spatialize it, and then you realize there are different relationships, there are things that are missing, and so on. That's the current thing. Integrating it more with the real world will be very important, but that's beyond the current stage of thinking tumor. I'm already getting a little bit of help from Apple, so let's not overthink that in real terms. Let's overthink it in dream terms at the moment.
I'm just been experimenting with OpenClaw and agents of this kind. They can, process the video feed and help you align, your interfaces around this. I've been doing this with the web camera, so I'm supposed that in more sophisticated environments like you have, that's just a library, I don't know, complexion issue. So it's not even conceptual. It's just what you want, and then you just do it. So the question is, why don't you do it? Is that because you don't have this kind of concepts, or because you think that this is something that leads you away from the main objective or something?
I'm just trying to find something here to share a link with you, and I can't find it easily. I'll send it later. But I had a meeting with Dave Millard, who was my professor for my PhD. It's hilarious. He's a full year younger than me. And he was also going in this direction of what he says is, and also please listen to the podcast songs of these things, because his particular meeting was very well handled. The AI agent should have the same interface to the environment as the human user, so that the AI agent can, through what you're talking about, Timur, or similar, understand the layouts. Spatial hypertext, of course, comes into that, but also do layouts for you. So you should be able to say something like, put all the people who are worked at IBM on the left-hand side. So it becomes a prompt, and we have to provide the means through layouts, categories, and all of that for the prompt to be executable. So that's absolutely in the pipeline. But right now, partly because it costs money, partly because the development environment is quite restricted. It's early versions. That's a little bit beyond where I'm looking at. All I'm looking at now is, like we saw Tom's writing, and that was Tom having written something thoughtful and he was finished. Imagine someone doing research and they've written notes and notes and notes, huge documents. And then the AI will help you put what you think, what you have written. Then you can go through it spatially and realize maybe some of it's rubbish. You have to change it. And then finally, Tom, just one second. The way you can put things literally behind you, the way that the zero of the x-axis can act as a kind of a center for your knowledge. All of these things we don't really know yet, because we haven't had these interactions possible for a while. We could start experimenting. Tom, please.
Yeah, and the main thing I'm having trouble seeing, and maybe it's because of looking at it on a 2D surface, I don't know. It's really hard. It's like you took a Lego house and dropped it on the floor, and the Legos are all over the place. And you can see that these are all yellow ones, and these are all red ones, and these are all blue ones, and so on and so forth. But I don't see the point of the house as a result. And it's it would be I don't know how you do this. And again, this is something I'm struggling with myself as I'm working on the Knowledge Navigator. How do you get to the where's the beef statement? I feel like you're getting lots of information, but not a lot of context in that information to show you what's the main point of what I wrote. What does it have to do with the main point of the other piece that you put in there? And how do those connect with each other? It's just a question of prioritization. Again, color might be one way to do that. I don't know, but there needs to be a different level of a hierarchy of this is the idea behind the story, and here are the different pieces, and then here's how they relate, and so on and so forth.
Sorry, I'm just listing Dave here before I forget. Boom. It's on that question. Hang on, let me do this so I can fully concentrate on you. I apologize. He just needed to be there, right? Yes and no in terms of priority, because all of those questions you, Tom, currently use your AI to answer, right? So what we're literally talking about here is pieces of knowledge in space. How can you organize them and interact them to have further clarity for your thinking? That's it. There is a lot we can do on two-dimensional screens, and it is frustrating for me to work through this now because the limitations of what can be done. One of the key things we talk about is knowledge of space, like memory castles and things like that. Whenever I press the wrong button, it recenters into my view. So that means if I had any relationship to my actual room, it's gone, right? So the more sophisticated things, did we lose Timur? We did. Hang on, I'm just going to text him. Yeah, it's something to work on. But a lot of the AI in the room, I'm trying to understand the fundamentals of what that might mean. How should it interact and so on. I don't want the AI to just make you a really cool CD-ROM style presentation, because then your brain becomes much more passive.
But when you're cleaning up, when you're doing a deep cleaning of a room, you end up making a mess first, because you have to take everything out and figure out, okay, this is what I've got. And then I need to then figure out, okay, what do these things have to do with each other so I can store them together or get rid of things because they're irrelevant. I do the same thing when I'm writing a lot of times. I will start with a central idea, and I will explode that idea and try to look for all the pieces that connect up to that idea. And then I need to reassemble those ideas. Now, I'm not asking the system to do that for me, but at least to provide me with, okay, you have these 3 options or these 5 options as to what you're really saying here. And then you can look at them and go, oh, that's really what I want to say, as opposed to, yeah, none of those make sense, or these 4 don't make sense, or whatever. That to me is part of the process of information control, information management, if you want to call it that. Because that's the big thing I'm looking at, because my problem is I have all of this information. I have more information than anybody else in the universe has had in human history. But I can't get through it because there's just too much. I'm sitting here in this meeting. I also got a part of my brain that's working on trying to figure out how to manage my students on their final projects. And a part of my brain is thinking about actually cleaning up and reorganizing my room. But I mean, this is the kind of things that I think a lot of people deal with, not just people with ADD like I think I have. But it's just, how do I do that in a visual format to show the connections? Because I want to see where's the beef too. I want to see what the things are together. I will produce the final product, but maybe it just tells me which way to go with that. And that involves a prioritization a little bit.
Yeah, but that's
even if it's your tagging, by the way. But
also let's look at the difference between us and students a little bit as well,
Mm.
right? Because there are different requirements of what the work output should be. So what I'm trying to focus now is to help students, university students primarily. But also, whenever you guys have a chance to be more in the headset, like Peter Wasilko has started doing, please do that. And even if it means going to an Apple store, having a demo, and then saying, can I walk around the room for a bit? It is literally not describable, the difference between flat with a 3D thing on it, like a computer game, and being in it. And it's really hard for me as well. Like when I don't have the headset on, for me to imagine how should a layout feature, how should this work? If I picture it in my mind, it's much smoother. It's like the whole point of writing things down. It makes you commit, right? So when you have
Right.
interaction that isn't in XR, it's still okay. Right, let's, oh, Timur, you're back.
Yep, I'm back.
Yeah, I got
Cool.
I got quite worried there. Thank you. Right, so let's just move on to the supposed discussion of today, which is origami text. I'm not sure how long you want to stay on this topic. You know, I should get a sense if it becomes boring or interesting, but the point is, I'm just going to skim through this and then we'll talk. Document formats now are not strong enough. I think we all agree with that. And PDFs and HTML have issues. I'm suggesting EPUB. And it's not like I'm trying to invent something fancy here, quite the opposite. I'm trying to say, can we wind back the different varieties of EPUB that exist to be useful? And that means making the package minimalist. So you have single HTML, not one per chapter, single CSS, which is the default basic display, nothing about alignment and stuff, only semantic markup. Figures cannot flow, they have to be taking up the whole space, no scripting. And then we have the enhancements of Visual Meta, both as a JSON file, so it's easy to extract, and at the end of the HTML. So and by Visual Meta, I just mean Mohit and Timur, I just mean all the metadata you could want. Proper BibTeX for the references, spatial data for what we've just been looking at, which means X, Y plus Z in a list, where the only other thing you have is the ID. So the ID can be for something that is a reference, a glossary term, an image, anything else. That's it. And I did run this through, because I thought someone else would. I ran it through Gemini and ChatGPT, where I said, please have a look at this and tell me if it's feasible given the premises. And I got 2 replies back from both of them, which can be summed up as, some of it's a little over-promising. Some of the things have to be more clearly defined. Those are achievable aims. So what do you guys feel about the notion of EPUB as simplified EPUB with more metadata as something to look at going forward? Tom, is your hand still up?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, don't worry.
I don't know enough about the EPUB, the limitations or constraints of the EPUB format to be able to answer that question. It has the advantage of being an existing format, and so you're not starting over from scratch like Apple likes to do. And if you're not Apple, you can't get away with HEIC or things like that. So that's a problem. I mean, you have to also think about the crowd logic and the ability to get people to shift and going with something familiar. I think it would be useful to break down EPUB in those terms and say, okay, what are the limitations? And if we wanted to add these things to it, what's possible. And that, again, that could be an AI question.
So
And
there are some answers to some of that. What EPUB is basically HTML in a box, right? Because HTML, the problem with it now is it's server-based.
mhm.
You cannot download the HTML of a paper because it need all kinds of other stuff, CSS and whatever. So it's just a package of HTML. So we get the reflowing, we get the easy text selection without worrying about PDF renderings. But it also means you could put it in your own library. You know, you could have it in a folder. Don't have to click on a link every time to read it.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it would be interesting to see how far you can push extensions to EPUB, hide more things in the. It's basically a zip file of HTML, CSS, and kind of interpreted by a reader in restricted ways, so it doesn't actually run a lot of JavaScript or something like that, because your e-readers are kind of dumb and light, or at least that's the idea behind them. I see the same thing happening as people try to use Markdown for more, have more semantic meaning in the Markdown files. And it'd be interesting to see how far you could push, instead of PDFs, which have a lot of restrictions and a lot of nice things about them. Extending EPUB might be more fruitful and give you something that other people can use in the meantime. In other words, I could take the EPUB, put it in my headset, but I got to take the EPUB and put it in my e-reader and actually read the text at least. I mean, it might not know what to do with the visual meta extra information, but it might be there in some HTML-ish format that I can actually peruse if I needed to.
The extra information, and Peter Wasilka, I see your hand, and Peter knows this better than anyone. The extra information.
Peter knows it better.
Yeah, so the extra information you would have in the metadata in this origami thing is you would have a clear outline. It would know everything properly as an outline. Every unit of knowledge, every paragraph would have an ID, so you could do Doug Engelbart style high resolution addressing. The concepts would be defined just like we looked at earlier. References would not just be plain text at the end. It would be a BibTeX file so that you could extract exact references to where it is. The references contain each of them further information, such as link type, like I'm referencing this, but I hate it. Also, it would have the document name in the reference in the metadata, so that if you have that document locally, PDF or whatever, or this type of EPUB, when you click on the citation, it'll open up the original document immediately to the right page. Also, the spatial layout information, which will be X, Y, plus Z as a bonus. So if you have a headset to put it on, it could immediately read, and you have the spatialized information. And because the way the space is listed is so brief, all of those views we looked at earlier, saved views, could be there. So the author could have made lots of different views of the same thing, and you just snap, 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 and you see things change. Plus much more. That's the point of the accessible.
Have you written this out in a scope document?
Yeah, it's on visualmeta.com, link to origami. Yeah, please,
Sorry.
Peter.
Okay. Personally, I don't like HTML. And the reason I don't like it is because it makes it very hard to have overlapping markup. So I want to have standoff markup for everything, have the text be the plain text, and then rely on the standoff markup to determine where ranges are within the text. So that lets us have any number of layers of additional markup on top. If you try to do it in HTML, it becomes a nightmare. And effectively, the only way to do it is wind up basically putting a span around every character just about, and then describe things in terms of those spans. For my own experiments, I'm going back to a very low level, and the idea that I'm kicking around with them, playing with a little demo code where every time a character gets entered into the system, I'm attaching a nano ID to that particular character. Then I'm also putting that character in an append-only array of all of the assigned nano IDs and characters going with them. that lets me describe selections in terms of a sparse bit vector across the immutable but growing array of previously assigned GUIDs. That way, in my user interface, I can essentially walk through an array of characters plus GUID pairs and associate a span with each one of those. The span is then aware of what that copy of the letter A's GUID is. It can then look into the bit vectors at that location. So basically what it will do is it knows that it has nano ID, CF4. And it can then go to a lookup table to get from CF4 to find out what its index is in the master array of all previously assigned GUIDs. And then it can consult multiple bit vectors that are based on that to figure out which attributes are associated with it at its location. Then it can decide how it wants to paint itself on the screen and what other possibly infinite number of bits of metadata are associated with it.
So Peter, question on that. When you say standoff markup,
Yeah.
can that standoff markup be in the same zip file?
Sure. You could just have like a YAML file that contains all of the bit vectors associated with the original master document. The other nice thing too is that that will make the annotations robust across cut and paste and moves because they're based upon the GUID of the character, not their position in the file. So that lets us do interesting things there, preserving identity across edits.
Yeah, but one thing that is important about the notion of what we're looking at here, it's a publish-only format. This is to replace PDF, not to replace Word, so to speak. So those things shouldn't be possible for this type of use.
Well, it'd be easy enough to squeeze out the unnecessary data, throw away all of the tombstoned characters that aren't part of the final published copy of the document. Then you just get the array of all the characters by their GUID, and you store in your final document whatever layers you want to be exporting. So you could just sort of like hide the machinery for doing edits and changes to the system and bake it all in a read-only format. So that wouldn't be an issue.
No, but what would be an issue, and Timur, you're next. There are a lot of EPUB readers out there. So one of the key notions here is that
existing EPUB readers wouldn't understand my format.
Right. So because what I'm
It'd have to be a custom reader.
I'm trying to simplify EPUB. So because it seems there's two reasons academics don't use EPUB according to my research, talking to my friend Claude. One, the formats are not the same because there's so much layout with margins and stuff that's not compatible with different systems. And two, it lacks page resolution, which of course we in this group don't care about. We care about high resolution addressability. So it has to address those things. But the notion of that kind of formatting, Peter, is very interesting. Timur, thank you for your patience.
Hi. Yes, that's I'm a bit out of context, so sorry for that. I would like to address the adaptivity of interface issue that breaks for me into two parts. Part number one is basically a thing called cognitive load. It seems that cognitive load here is a bit too much for me, but you can adapt to cognitive load. What does it mean? It means that basically you can actually knowing and having the history of human interaction with this thing, you can use cognitive load concepts, and lots of them are formalized already. Use this to filter out or change some spatial arrangement of how you generate the interface. Basically, by the way, last 3 months there are articles about generative interfaces. I don't know if you have read them, but it's like GPT generating transformers. They also used last 3 months to generate interfaces. So you can generate interfaces also to hold the cognitive load in some in some restrict, because I think it should be adaptive. And the second thing is basically even more off topic. It's about concept complexity. For example, if you have Harari's books are basically one idea stretched around 500 pages, and there are persons like, I don't know, Martin Heidegger, that has one a paragraph full of hundreds of ideas. And when you are trying to address the topic of concept extraction in when you approach these kind of things, you have to, I don't know, have some kind of ontology of concept, because you can because any kind of artificial agent can extract very stupid concept even out of Harari's book, and at the same time they will extract the same number of concepts, but they will be very low level concepts out of books that are very semantically complex. So probably that could be the next step. So that's why I call this off topic. It's preliminary thing. But I think that the whole idea of Engelbart was being adaptive, because when he worked, what he tried to do is basically to create interfaces that are corresponded to the cognition of human of that time. I know 50, 60, 70 years ago, but now it's different. So I think that interface adaptivity should be the point. And as cognitive load concept has been much developed during the last, I think, 20 years at least, I think it's a good idea to add some adaptivity to this, because when I'm looking through your eyes, when you're showing us your VR interface, it's too loaded and too cognitively complex. For me, it's not because there are too many elements. It's because it does not correspond to the conceptual map I have. So I think adaptability of the conceptual map is something we or you should think about. Thank you.
Oh, well, that was cool. So cognitive load, when I was in Japan over Easter, I wrote quite a bit of that, of how to reduce it. One of the key things I was looking at the other day, just reading this, is when you read a paper book, you have to turn the page, right? There are no other ways to go through the book. Maybe that's why it's simple and pleasant, but also you can't easily, unless you choose to go to a table of contents, which takes a while to find, or the index. So the affordances of digital text is different, especially people like us who care about it. We have different ideas of what that means. So to learn that has a bit of load. So how you choose to navigate the text while you're writing, how you choose to view and navigate text when you're reading are not the same things. One of the key things for me that's come up recently is, actually, I'll show you real quick. Sorry, everyone. Where's the share? Nope. There it is. Right. So here is, I just pulled this up and I share the PDF. It's a draft. There's nothing at the end, but in this document I'm working on, it is cognitive load for core and contextual writing spaces. But if you see here at the bottom, I click on outline, it shows me the headings as you would expect, right? Now, an overview is not the same as a heading. This has become clear to me recently. If I now click on overview, then it shows me a different view. Any text that I have marked appears. And then it has a column of keywords. So outline, overview. The reason I'm bringing this up in context of cognitive load is when I'm writing my own stuff, if I get this every time, I want just the outline, it's too much. I just need the outline. But if I'm going through reviewing my document for what did I write where, then I want an overview. I think that also translates to more to what you were talking about in terms of how it should be presented online. And when it comes to complexity and adaptiveness, it is so important. My ACM paper 2 years ago was based on the concept that accessibility is a rubbish thing because it makes it look like some people have issues, whereas in reality, we all have issues. We all have different sensitivities to color, contrast, light, sound, all of these things. So when you're talking about adaptive systems, Timur, there is a really important balance between really fitting the user, that is key, but fitting the user not as a, I just stepped into the room, make it easy to use for me, which I know you're not saying, but one where the user feel that they can work harder to excel. So that's why I'm so excited by little things like the focus act. You have a ton of stuff, it's too much. There should be many different ways where the user at the time of need can adapt the system to their preference of what should be displayed. And that is a gesture and a system we haven't really gotten great at yet. But that's the kind of cognitive load that I'm personally really eager to deal with, because the little toolbar is almost like a Microsoft Word toolbar. In many ways, it's quite pathetic. I do want to keep it for a while because it's a nice help. But once you start being gestural and it becomes smooth, you do this, you pull and you push your knowledge, you're customizing it and you are adapting it at the speed of work rather than as a separate preference. Sorry to go on. It was a very important point. Hope it wasn't too boring. Does that relate, Timur, to what you were saying?
Yes, but I would also add to this one thing, one thing, and one thing only. It's that there's a concept that's called zone of possible development or of lateral development, and that is a concept of cultural psychology that says that there's something you can do that that is your frontier, but there's different zone that consists of something you can do with this, with some help, with the help of special kind. So as far as I know, in this kind of approach, they say that the main idea of development, it's mostly built around the child development articles and research, that if you take development concept into your work, not just the work without development, like plain kind of work, but you have evolution concept built in, then it means that you have special approach, or you should have special approach to interfaces that help you develop at the same time your skills, your cognitive skills, your concepts that correspond to the concepts that evolve and open up in interfaces. So you never, give up the whole interface structure to a user. It's should be developmental and also adaptive. And I think we could talk about this some later, because this is what I meant about when I said adaptiveness. It's not like adaptiveness in IT thing. It's not being adaptive to the current level of the user. It's an adaptiveness to a next step. So you make an interface a little bit more complex than it's possible at the moment to comprehend, but you work with the development line, or with this kind of, you take development of cognitive structure of the user into use, and you make it one of the object you work with. That's just an idea. Thank you.
That's core, and I'm very glad you're saying that. So most of you know that I have a son. You just saw him, a wonderful child. And there was something a few weeks ago where there was something he didn't understand. I mean, he is literally growing and learning. And I realized that in order for him to understand that, he had to understand another thing, which is part of what I think you're talking about, Timur. And I found that really fascinating because I was thinking about what are the barriers for him at 8, almost 9, it's going to be 9 on Friday. What are the building blocks of understanding, right? Which is, of course, the whole point of school. But the more advanced thing we are looking at in this context is all of us as adults also. And I think this really goes to what you were talking about, Tom. When you were talking about Sapiens and Yuval Noah Harari, yes, conceptually, he doesn't have that much to say, which is, there's clarity there. I have read a lot of his work. But that's not the point, because also I notice Peter Wasilko sometimes has problems getting through to me. There are things that Peter will talk about that seem obvious, but it will take me months to get it because we have different perspectives, and it usually ends up in the series of books. I also know that I have problems getting through to you guys because we all think close to the same, but not exactly the same. So my dream is that even though right now we're seeing little Lego blocks in space, it is so ridiculously simple. It's like the original Macintosh level simple. It just happens to be spatial, right? That through the use of the correct LLM strategy, through the correct gestures of the user, and much deeper what Timur is talking about that I'm beginning to understand, I think. Once you're presented with your own knowledge, how can you work with it so it's not just a superficial, this goes there, that goes here? One thing with Dave Millard, and I put the link in, it's also on the website now, one thing we talked about was, other agents being able to manipulate the space. And one thing, I'm an interface guy, I live on the surface, there's no question. When Mark Anderson is here, you see how we clash over surface versus structure, and that's quite fun. But just imagine this, you have a piece of knowledge in front of you. And if we can develop two-handed interaction gestures, which I'm really working hard to make possible. Imagine you clench your fist, you're not primary, normally left or right-handed, and then you pinch. So now you're no longer pinching to move, you're pinching to interact. So imagine if you pinch away from you, what happens is behind this object, information behind it appears. It's like you're pushing through it. Imagine if you pull towards you, something else appears. I actually don't know what. And then you can have simple things like grasp, look at something, pinch to the right. That means you like it. Pinch to the left, that means hide it. Right? We're beginning to have almost like a sign language. So once you begin to have this really very gestural interaction with your knowledge, maybe it'll become so second-hand, that was a joke, I didn't realize, to the point where we can start building systems that approximate what Timur is talking about, where the systems themselves are built towards helping you dig deeper. Right? Timur, stop me if I'm wrong, but...
Yeah, but it's about knowledge. It's not about information. So it's about the conceptualization of what knowledge is. And knowledge is, as far as I understand this concept, is something that is positionally or viewpoint based. So you have different viewpoints. They create different ontologies. Different ontologies create different layers and mock-ups of conceptual structures. So there is no such thing as universal information. So knowledge is always context-based, but context is also personality or activity-based. It depends on what you do. So it means with all your gestures, you have to move around the space of positions and viewpoints and roles and approaches to the problem in hand. And this is slightly more difficult than just pinching and driving information backwards or forwards.
Then I can update you a little, Timur. And Tom, just a few more seconds if you don't mind. Thank you. So important what you're saying. So our friend Timur, I think you met him, Bruce Horn. He did the original Mac Finder. He many years later did a new version of the Finder called Context. Just to highlight, when you talk about context, it's so important. In the system that I'm developing here, and I know this is not what you're talking about. This is a step towards it, right? Each knowledge object can be defined as being context or not. Interaction-wise, the reason is you could imagine you have 300 books on the wall indicated by little things that you have called context, and then you have another 100 people who are important in your work over here. They are indicated as context. Reason for that is if you do something like select all people, you can choose to ignore the context people. So you're only working within kind of the subject area, but you have the context available. Of course, Timur, you're talking about what is inside me, the user. You're talking about many other things. But to approach the system in terms of content, context, perspectives, which is why it's so important to be able to save multiple views of a space and share it, right? I would love to go into a space and have Mohit, for instance, who is new to the community. This was my room, and then he went in and made a mess. And then we talk to each other while I see his mess. Now it makes sense. It's no longer a mess. Because when it's someone else's perspective, it would be. So it is the direction, Timur. Thank you. And Tom, please.
Yeah, I mean, one thing might be to have a switch to have different kinds of analyses on different kinds of books. And that might be, what are you hoping to get out of this, right? So I have a book like this one, which is about a new version, which is not that new anymore, it's 25 years old, of Bloom's taxonomy. And there's really one idea in here. It's a good one, but once you read the charts, the rest of it is just justification for making this shift. And if I already believe this, I want that piece, I want the chart, I don't need the justification, right? And it's a great, and again, it's an important book. But then I look at a book like Gödel, Escher, Bach, which is so loaded with ideas. And I think, who was it? Timur's talking about, Habermas having 100 ideas in one paragraph. Exactly. There are other kinds of books that are like this that require. I'm less concerned about the connections, at least initially, between this and other books. I'm more concerned about understanding what the hell he's talking about, right? And that involves a disassembly process rather than an extraction process. And I would say novels might be a third category. They might also be in this category. With a novel, with a fictional work, you want to have a conversation. I mean, the thing I would want to do as say, an English professor, if that's what my job was, is to upload Shakespeare into a notebook LM and then have my students have conversations with Shakespeare's plays and use that as a way of refining their own understanding of that and then being able to refer back and forth to the text. And it becomes less of a hunt and peck exercise. I mean, I think one of the things that we kind of need to understand a little bit is that physically speaking, there is no difference between these two books. I mean, they're different size and a little bit, one's thicker than the other, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's true. I mean, again, you put in the Tim Schneider book as a really slow, short book, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's useless, right? I have a book by Harry Frankfurter called On Bullshit, which is an absolute classic, but it's only like 60 pages long and they're not very big pages. He originally wrote it as an essay. So that's not the issue. But when we looked at books, we have one container in books, maybe two if you count illustrated / visual comic book kind of thing, graphic novels as a second format. But essentially, this is the box I have for the information. I do not have any other way of easily transmitting this in a pre-digital era. So the question is, now that we've moved into a digital era, should we have different boxes for different kinds of idea collections? And therefore, maybe there is a switch there that you pull and say, okay, I think this book is like this. Or maybe you do an initial scan and it says, this looks like this kind of information source. And then you iterate or something like that. And then you build it like that. I'm just thinking that might be a really useful tool because until I actually open this book and start reading it, I don't know how dense it is. I'm sure there are a lot of people who's like, "Oh, you got to read this book. You got to read this book." Yeah, okay. But this is going to take me a lot of time to read because of the density of the information in it. Whereas, another book, I'll just skim through it, pull the information out. I'm extracting information, throw that into my information collection bin, and have that ready to pull out and use when I need it. But that I think, there's a quality versus quantity issue here that I think we need to take into account.
Yes, and two things on that. Number one, we're talking primarily, at least for the system I'm building, authorship, not readership, which are related but not the same. A good book, Peter. I think I have a copy too somewhere. But also, the point of this approach to EPUB, origami text, is to enable what you're talking about, Tom. It is to make not only the text reflowable, but also perfectly accessible to AI without having PDF issues. It is also by making all the metadata that the author wants to put in there accessible to AI and other systems so that you can start doing exactly this. I mean, one thing we definitely see, like the example I did on the origami text, I ran it through two independent AIs to give me their perspective. We will definitely use more AIs to say, should we read this book? Right, that's going to be part of life. And the more convenient we can do it and more connected way we can do that will be interesting. I think the level kind of up or down or to the side from that is just like you were talking about, Tom. Here's a book with one concept. Why was the whole book written? It's not just for commercial reasons. It's also to really get the concept. You have to go through, Timur, I think that's what you're talking about. You have to go through various, let me for short call it stages. So Timur is writing semantic density of the text and corresponding cognitive load on user side and interface load in between seems like an interesting thing to talk about. Absolutely. I would be very happy to dedicate much more time on that. This month, I try to do monthly projects or whatever. This thing is ostensibly now about origami text the whole month of May. But as we've seen today, we can stick to that very loosely. And we can say we would like a format that allows us to do what Tom just said and that allows authorship into it. I mean, tomorrow it's provocative what you're talking about here because you're saying the opposite of what many people, not people here, but many people are saying. You're saying instead of give me, sorry, Timur, I think you're saying, don't give me a summary, show me the complexity, right? That is a much more interesting premise. Also, practically speaking, we're running low on time. Future of Text Symposium will not be in September, it'll be in November. I've decided not to do it connected to the ACM Hypertext Conference because neither the conference nor the symposium would actually gain anything from it. So it is much better to do something in November so the people at the conference who want to go will have some more time to digest. So all of you, November, London.
It's 1 o'clock.
Yes, 1 o'clock for some of us. Here it's 6. Any final words today?
Are you thinking about the same week in November as last year?
Roughly. I'm very flexible with that. There are some key people I'm now going to bug about checking their availability. And because to put it honestly, I need some famous people because that helps drive more relevant people. It really makes a difference.
I'll try to become famous between now and then.
Perfect. As long as you do it through peaceful means, Tom. Yeah, great discussion today. As I think you all know, please go to the website. All of these are up there recorded. And there's a summary and there's a song and dance without the dance. So Peter Dimitris, last time you said you kind of enjoy the songs. I'm very grateful for that. I find they put a very different spin on our dialogue.
I appreciate the experimentation. There's too little of that really going on. You seem to have the freedom to do it.
Yeah, the freedom for this is very.
And you're sharing it.
I mean, freedom is a really interesting concept, and freedom can only come from, real freedom can only come from feeling safe. So I hope that we feel very safe in this community, so we can express and experiment with all kinds of ways and discussions. And Timur, you and me will talk later in the week as well, right? Okay, let's telegram something and figure that out. And Mohit, I look forward to you presenting next week. If you haven't fallen, oh, you're awake. Good, good, good. So grateful
Yeah.
you're here in the evening. Could you please send me a paragraph so I will post it on the website so people will have a clue what's happening?
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Fantastic. Okay, have a good night or a good day or a good afternoon or a good whatever it is for you. Bye
Have
now.
a good week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.